Hey everyone, today I wanted to talk about flexible layouts. I think this is the new big thing for SharePoint, because if there's anything that people want for SharePoint is they want SharePoint to not look like SharePoint. So let's get into it. Let's talk about some tricks. Let's talk about how it has a snap grid layout. Let's talk about these flexible layout templates, how things can lay on top of each other. And also there's a new site theme accessibility checker. We can do this in our SharePoint site. So let's get into it and let's create a new SharePoint site with flexible layouts. So I wanted to go over the next best thing in SharePoint. And to me, that is flexible layouts. So today I have a brand new SharePoint site, just your basic Teams template right out of the box. And when I say out of the box, that means all the default features. I decided to call this our AI home. I think most companies need like an AI home right now where you can collaborate, work together, share your ideas. So I was thinking, let's build a homepage for AI home that every company could use. And let's use the new flexible layouts. And to start off, the best thing that I want to talk about and the fastest way to create an AI home with the flexible layouts is to use some of the templates that Microsoft is giving us. So let's go to edit. And if you look over here on the right side, let's make sure we can see this actually. Right over here on the right side, you see this right here? We have our toolbox, we have properties, design ideas, accessibility assistant. Under our toolbox, right down here, we have some stock images, but in my opinion, with AI, DALL-E, all those really cool image generators, maybe you could use that instead of the stock images. That may be a large conflict that people are having right now is stock images, getting paid for stock images versus AI images. I'll put an AI image in this video. So let's keep going. Down here are section templates. So check out some of these section templates. Some of them, like, they already work with the flexible layout. So let's add a flexible layout here. So if we zoom in, you see now we have a flexible layout, 1 column, 2 column, 3 column, 1/3. And now we have, in the past year or two, we've added in full width section, and that's that large one at the top. And then there's flexible layouts. And here, if we add in a section template and drag and drop it in, you can see we have these beautiful flexible layouts. Check this out. Type in here so we could write in, AI home. Although we're going to create our own, but this is really neat, right? It gives us the power to start editing in this new flexible layout. Thank you for viewing. All right, so you can come in here and you could start editing, adding your own images right on top. And if we hit publish, what's really nice is it's already looking good. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this left side navigation, or I'm going to push it to the top so it's up top here. I feel like I want more space. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to change the look. And for the header, I'm going to make it a little smaller, so minimal. I want it to be smaller. The theme, I'm fine with that. The logo, site title, visibility, we could turn that off. No, we're fine with that. SharePoint, modern SharePoint is getting better and better and better. And the more as time goes on, I'm happier that modern SharePoint was released. And we have look in here, we have minimal, compact, standard, extended. So we have an extended bar. I like to do minimal. I don't like the gray. The gray's okay. Oh, this color is looking good. And I want to go into one more thing. So let's look at these colors. So this is probably, and hopefully you can see that on your screen. This is probably a tertiary color, the third color, and maybe the secondary. But let's look at that. Let's leave it on that theme. Click save. And I'm going to move let's go back to change the look. The navigation, let's go to horizontal. I want to pull it up there. I like having all this space. To me, this makes SharePoint look better. So now our quick launch is now at the top up here, and we can edit this if we want to. I like having all this space. That's my preference. Now, the next thing I want to do is, before we get into more of this, let's add in a button. let's add in a button right here. So let's add a button in. Let's see if we can drag it where we want it. So in order to drag it, you really have to click on these, I guess, 6 dots, and that helps you drag it to where you want it. And then I'm just going to say, click here. Let's do the edit properties. Click here to add your Copilot prompt. Let's make it nice and wide. So we have a nice big button in there. And so we can put it anywhere we want. Isn't that wonderful about flexible layouts? So before we get more into that, let's just put that in. I'm going to republish. I want to touch on another new feature before we dive really deep into the flexible layouts. And that is in the gear setting, we now have site branding. Site branding. And this is something that we used to have to write code for. We used to have to write either PowerShell or JSON. And now Microsoft is giving us the ability to customize font packages, themes for your SharePoint site or Viva Connections. And you can change the look. So you have font packages, or you can click new theme. And of course you can learn more if you want to learn more. But let's go ahead and dive into new theme. Now in the new theme, this looks very similar to like the Fluent UI. Now notice each of these choices that we have here on the left side. So we have step 1, choice of colors. And then this section right here, the UI elements, this is here to help us visualize our choices. So when we choose a primary color, let's choose something new. What I'm going to choose is I'm going to choose like a purple. I like purple because to me it reminds me of the Power Platform. I like to do purple, and my primary color is going to be dark. It's going to be a darker purple because on the primary button, if you look right here, the primary button has white text. So a darker color with white text looks better. So on my primary color, I'm going to choose a dark purple, maybe almost a black, but maybe kind of in here. We could find a purple color, a dark purple. That looks good on the buttons. On the check boxes, it looks good. That's my preference. Now for text color, I'm going to leave it as black. You could probably do a very, very dark purple and be okay. Maybe, but it won't even matter, right? So text color for me on a white background should be very close to black. Next, background color. I like to do a little bit, tiny bit off-white. I mean, very little off-white, because a white screen to me is very blinding. When everything's white, that's why a lot of us developers, we like dark screens, because we're looking at that screen all day. It reflects on our glasses. It hurts our eyes. A very bright screen, it blinds us. So I think a little tiny bit off-white, this is opinion. This is what I like to do. I do a little bit off-white. So the FA, and pure white is down here. It's straight 6 letter Fs. And then accent color. Our accent color right now is a blue. So let's see. Do we even see that here? I don't really see the accent color, but I believe that's this color up here. I could be wrong, but that could be that color up there. Since I'm doing a purple, I'm going to choose another purple and maybe of a lighter. Let's try it like a very light purple. There we go. So a very light purple is what I'm going to choose. And so we can see how all these colors mix in together. And what's very important is our accessibility checker says everything's looking good. Now you can document this. It's very important when you're working professionally is they may come to you and ask you a question. Is your site accessible? And now you have documentation. You could take a screenshot of this. You could say, hey, yes, my colors are accessible, and here's why. And so you can have the accessibility checker. And now if it's not accessible, let's try and make it not accessible on purpose. So if we change the text color to like white, right? Right away, it will mention your color palette is not accessible, right? You can't see that text there, that light purple almost. You can't see that. So as soon as you add the black color back, and this is actually a little off black color, I think, right? Because pure black is 000. So it's a little bit off black, maybe a tiny bit gray. And you can see, actually, when it's a tiny bit gray, it is still not accessible. So I'm going to go back to this color black, which is more close to the 6 zeros. All right, and I'm going to hit next. Next, we're going to name our theme, and we're going to call this AI theme. And maybe you want to give it a more broad name. Maybe you want to share your theme. At the very beginning, you can share themes. So maybe give your theme a better color. So let's do dark purple. Accessibility reminder, check color combinations. Make sure that the site works for people who are colorblind. Once again, this is very important things that we need to pay attention to. All right, so the accessibility checker is looking good. I'm going to hit save. All right, so we now have a new theme, dark purple. I can click on it and we can go back to our home. And then I'm going to go to, in the gear icon, I'm going to go to change the look, theme, and our dark purple. Let's see if we can find it in here. Dark purple from this site. Notice that these, let me move me. Notice that these colors are custom colors that I made before doing pro code, I would say, but it's simple code. It's either JSON or PowerShell. This is how we used to have to do it. Now, Microsoft has given us this designer, and you notice how that changed. So kind of look at the different colors and how they match, how they kind of change this. I think it's the tertiary color, or I think Microsoft called it the accent color. So you can see how it changes. We click save. And so now we have our custom theme on our SharePoint site. I think this is very important. All right, so we have our custom theme on our SharePoint site. I'm going to delete this entire template. I don't want this template here, but I did want to show, you know, how things can now go across. You're not stuck in this 3-column mode, right? Like you kind of were stuck with 3 columns, and you see how this is not really aligning to the columns and makes the SharePoint site look more unique. So let's just take a look at that. I love the way this looks, actually. It no longer looks like typical SharePoint, right? We have a nice SharePoint site with this beautiful theme, but now let's create our own and go through some more ideas. Before we dive deep into creating our own flexible layout, I want to show you what Microsoft did real quick. Let's just take a look at their video on flexible layouts. One really neat trick that they've done right here that's very popular is you notice this countdown, and you see how you have this picture here, and then the background is actually the same picture but blurred, right? So the color palettes kind of match. I think this is a very neat technique. I think that's a really good technique. A blurred image and then another image that's clear in your web part. Another tip is you notice that we kind of have this grid view and things kind of like snap into place, right? You see that snap, how it is? But if you're not zoomed in, let's say you're at like 100% of your site. If you're not zoomed in and you try and work in that grid view, sometimes you just can't get your web part or the image that you're trying to move in the right spot. So go ahead and zoom in, press Control and plus, and zoom in, and that way you can get much closer to that grid. You see, I can kind of get it into that grid view where I wanted to. That grid snap is very nice, but sometimes it fights with you. And if you zoom in on your browser, you can get a much more closer spot to that grid view and get your image or your web part exactly where you want it to be. Another quick tip when designing your sites is on the templates. A lot of times what they have is like these large images that they use for their templates. And you can see how they're different images that are the complete background of the flexible layout. You see how this one even has like paint or a gray color, or this one has like a picture on the side and then a fade on the right side. So different images. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a flexible layout. I'm going to add my own background to this image. So I'm going to add a background, and this is something I created with AI. And I'm going to add that background, and you notice this little button right here, resize. I'm going to resize and open that up, and maybe I want my image, my background image, let's see, more settings, scale to fill, let's see, tile, no, original size, I guess focal point, exit the focal point, maybe it's up here a little higher. Oh, stay and then save. So the focal point is now a little bit higher. Maybe that's a little too much. So we can do the focal point maybe down here. And you notice how it gives us a preview of each one. 5 to 1, 169. All of that is beautiful. All right. So we have a very nice color on our flexible layout. Now let's add some things in here. So the first thing is let's add in an image of someone. I guess of me. I guess we'll have an image of me. So I'll add an image of me. Let's see here. We're going to add an image. All right, so we'll add an image of me. We'll take this image. We'll drag it up. Maybe not this one, but actually it comes up here. Comes up here like this, maybe a little smaller. Get that to fit in there. And notice I hit publish. It kind of didn't make it big enough. Let's do edit again. It needs to be a little bit bigger so it doesn't cut off my circle. My image does cut off the circle. I think it's the way I cut the image. But okay, we have my image in there. Let's say prompt of the day, right? Like we can write prompt of the day. Copilot prompt of the week. So, or maybe the month, because we don't want to edit a SharePoint site every day. So Copilot prompt of the month. We can add in here, let's see, summarize the top 3 most viewed pages of my SharePoint site this month and suggest improvements based on user engagements. So let's kind of see how that fits in there. Maybe my image should be on the left. I haven't decided that yet. But let's see. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Make the text a little bit bigger. So we're kind of seeing how this kind of pans out. We can then have other buttons or links to our page down below. So down here, we can put in a button. And the button is, let's see here. If we click on the button, we do edit properties, view our shared Copilot prompts. All right, so we have our button and it goes to, let's just say Bing. This is just an example. So we have a button here. It's sharing our Copilot prompts. We're looking better. Like this is looking not like SharePoint, and that's what people like. People like things to not look like SharePoint. The more we can make this not look like SharePoint, the better. All right, and so then now we can have in here maybe something else. What else can we have? Probably what would be important is to have a news web part. I feel like this is overused, but for AI, right, a news web part would be good to have. So we can put in a news web part. Maybe we make it small. We can put in some news here. If we had some links to some news, let me just find some things to fill this up. And let's make the size match the size of my text. Oh, notice this. So this is a limitation currently right now of the news web part. So if I try and make it bigger, it adds the images in there. So let's do edit properties. Let's change this to list, no, side by side, tiles, carousel, top news. You notice how like if I make it smaller, it removes the images, but just there's no in between with this web part right now, right? So we have different sizes. I think there's about 4. So if you start here, 1, 2, oh, that was big. 1, 2, let's try a little bit bigger. 3, and then let's see, 3, and then 4. Oh, 4. Oh, so looks like there's only 3 for the news web part. This is just right now. I think things will change in the future, right? Things are going to change in the future. We could probably even drag this up a little bit and make it overlap. Look at that. I think, and then we pull it over a little bit. Is that too many things right there? Maybe not. I kind of like how that is. Not everyone is going to see the add button. Only if you're an admin of the site will you see the add button. So we have our news in there. Let me put some news in there that looks really cool. So we have some news in there. I just kind of threw something together. Artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence. If you didn't know, there is a difference and both are called AI. So we have artificial intelligence. We have a news web part. Let's zoom in a little bit. This is what's most important when designing a site, right? What's most important when designing a site is that first page before you scroll. As soon as you start scrolling, people will not see it as much. So let me remove this news web part. We'll remove that and then we'll turn comments on. So let me move me. So down here, we'll turn on comments. That's really neat. That way we can have comments. We can have people interact with our website, although it is way down here. Hey, I thought I could share a demo. You know, maybe you have some comments down here that people want to add to, that they can add to your site. That could be useful. But this first page is most important. This is the most important aspect of your page. And so edit here. Another thing we can do is we can add a vertical section on the side. So on the side here, now we can add more things. So let's say we had, I think normally on this section, what I normally have in here is quick links. And you notice now it kind of took up more of that page. I don't know if I like that or not. I'm actually going to remove that. I actually don't like that, but that is an option. I like having all this space in here and it using up the full width of our page. Okay, so we have used the flexible layout. We have an image, Copilot prompt of the month. Not hard to update. Now we could probably, add some more in here. All right, so we have our nice AI website. Another thing that looks really good on flexible layout is adding a Power BI dashboard. I think being able to resize your Power BI dashboard in many different ways does look really good. So let's see here. I want to edit this section. I'm going to add a Power BI dashboard. So Power BI. Now we need a link to our Power BI dashboard. Now I just have a very simple Power BI dashboard. Maybe it actually goes in this next section down here. So I'm going to put it in the top left corner. And then what's great is I can really resize this and make it take up all that space in there. And then this I'm going to pull up. We have my Copilot prompt of the month. We have my image. It is a circle. It's perfect circle. We have my Power BI dashboard. Let's see, can we hide this file part up here in Power BI? Let's see here. Edit, show navigation pane, show filter pane. No. Show action bar, show navigation pane. There we go. I just want to see my Power BI dashboard. Report section. Let's see, you can change the display. 16:9 or 4:3. So imagine if that was AI information that you have. We can now interact with my Power BI dashboard. Once again, this is all just test data that I have together. The Power BI dashboard is fully you're fully able to interact with it. We have a nice SharePoint site. Let's add just a little bit more. I feel like this space right here, this white space, you see this white space right here? We need something. What can we add right there to, maybe it's like another image that comes behind here. Let's see if I can get another image together. All right, so I have another image. Let me see if I can drag it in here. I'll drag another image in here. It's like a little swirl. We'll see if it looks good. I'm going to drag it up in here and I want it to be smaller and I'm going to move it up and then I'm going to pull it backwards, right? So bring backwards, send backwards. And I'm not sure if it looks good or not. I'm sure that you guys can create better things than me. Maybe right there, just like that. So we have my name, we have a little swirl image. It doesn't look that bad. It's not that bad. Maybe it should be a little bit smaller. It's like the same size as my circle. I don't mind that. We have our news web part and this button here is interactable, right? So it actually looks like I can't click on this news web part or this button because I need to push it backwards. So edit the news web part, send backwards. Now this button is clickable. So you got to be careful with that. Now you see how the hand signal changes. We now have that button. It works. We have my image. We have now this is looking better. So if we go to this image again, notice these shapes, right? Hexagon, teardrop. It's kind of doing the cropping for you, circle. I like that. So if I would have had a square image, I could have just cropped it into a circle right there. We have a nice, beautiful web part. Now, and another thing that you want to think about, and a lot of people don't know this, there's, when you have layouts, there is the option in the layout. So if you come over here if you come to edit properties, this section right here, make this a collapsible section. Analytics. So analytics, and then we can create another section below it. And so let's do another section. And I wonder if we can do a default, like it's collapsed at the start. So collapsible default right here. So let me move me. What's very important is default display is collapsed, right? So by default, it's not opened. So you can click on analytics and open it up if you want. And then let's have some more information in here. Now we have another flexible layout. And this one again is collapsible. And then default is collapsed. The heading 3, I kind of like that the heading 2. Show a divider line. Divider line's not bad, but we'll leave it like that. And then this one will be, what else do we need for an AI site? Maybe we, our favorite LLMs that we use, right? Because you want to share what people are using. Like, are people using Copilot? Are people using ChatGPT? Are people using Llama? Who knows, right? And then so in here we can have more text. Another text part, and we can put this in here. And, we can talk about, Microsoft Copilot. We can make this bulleted out, right? So Microsoft Copilot, ChatGPT, OpenAI, and then maybe ChatGPT API, and then I also did one on Claude. And so this is another collapsible section. And so this is looking even better. I like how things are collapsible. Maybe we'll pull this up now that that's collapsible. Let's pull this up some, make our image a little bit smaller, pull this up, and we have collapsible sections now that people can open up. I really think that is the best way, because if your page gets so long, imagine scrolling through. It's like, no, I just want to click on that and I want to see our favorite LLMs. All right, so I added another text part up here. Notice it has a link. It's a permalink. I think it will read that. So the accessibility will read that. I added, a little bit more to fill up that white space. We have our Copilot prompt. We have collapsible sections on the page render. If you're loading up Power BI, it doesn't start rendering until you open up the collapsible section. That's very important because some people may be on VPN and it may take longer for them to load your page. Some people maybe can't view the Power BI. Maybe they don't have access to it. So collapsible sections is very useful if you want your page to load faster, right? It's not going to load everything, or a document library. So I added a document library here. Maybe our document library is open by default. So down here, by default, it is expanded. I like the way that looks. So we have our page up here. What's very important, let me move me. We have our page up here, flexible layout. Things are on top of each other. A button here. If we wanted to, we could create more buttons. I know that you guys can create better design ideas than me. I am not the best artist, but I'm very good technically. So I'd love to share these ideas with you so you can create better than me. All this is looking good. What's most important is your first page. It's kind of like Google search, right? You Google search. What's most important is that first part. The first thing that's on the page before you have to scroll down is important. And what's even more important is as soon as you click next, most Google searches, people do not click page 2. Same thing with a SharePoint site. Think about those things. What's most important to your users, put on your home page. You have other links up here. I know documents is redundant, so that's another thing to think about. We have a documents button here. Maybe you don't need both. Most likely, you don't want to have redundancy. You don't want to have two places for documents. I'm going to remove notebook, pages, site contents is fine. Conversations, I'm removing that too. Keep it nice, clean look. Site contents is here in case you need it. But if you want documents, it's right down here. All you have to do is open up that section, which is open by default. All this is beautiful. What people want the most from SharePoint is for SharePoint to not look like SharePoint. That's just what people want. It's very funny. The most important thing for your SharePoint site is to make it not look like SharePoint. People pay millions of dollars for their SharePoints to not look like SharePoint. And now the power is in your hands with flexible layouts. Thank you all for watching. My name is Andrew Hess, and I'll see you next week.